It's quite hard to come back on, but I want to. So here I am. I have been out of balance for the past 4 or 5 days or so, and I have tried to get a handle on what it is that I'm doing. Let me see if I can get everybody lined up properly so you don't feel completely like the north is way over there, you know. The north is actually over there, so maybe that makes a difference. Out of balance. I find that there are two ways in which I am out of balance, and they're actually the same. The thing is that my attention has been drawn in to one or another particular part of my life, and it stays there. The result is that if I don't acknowledge this, if I don't know myself that I am still involved, still engaged in some process or other, the moment I try to do something else, especially something normal, something objective, something of the human existence, then I will feel fragmented again. It's a very nasty feeling. I don't like that at all. So that's the first case. And the second case is that I have acknowledged at some point that I need to sort of get back to what I was really doing, what I was really engaged with, continue that part of the process. So in that phase of things, I am realizing that there's, in the first instance, there's a part of a process that needs attention that I kind of got engaged with, but I haven't really progressed forward, right? I haven't really taken any steps regarding that issue. In the second stage of things, I have actually paid attention to it. I have worked with it. I have, finished the thing, the drawing, or whatever it is. But my energy is still in it. My attention, my focus, my mind and heart space is still full of that part of life. And I am still not completely done with it. So it's the same thing, but the stage is different. In the first stage, I will be almost feeling almost sick with anxiety, really, because something is pulling at me. Something is trying inside, really, crying for attention, crying for me to. I think all this is part of the completion process, right? That's why I'm putting this up. It's going to be a bit of a ramble. Maybe it'll be less of a ramble as I get on with the video. I hope so. Because there's all sorts of issues that are part of this. And it's, I get very discouraged when I don't see any practical results coming from my life, or I haven't been able to focus properly. I have no control, right? After a while, after 2 or 3 days of that, I just feel, I get very fuzzy. Everything is just messed up. My husband and I were together for a couple of days, which should be a good thing, right? We are very fond of each other. Normally, we interact really well. We are quite able also to let each other be free and do what it is that they want. So we are not constantly in each other's hair the whole time. All this, it normally it works just fine. However, I just spoke to him and I discovered that for him it really works the same as for me, and the pattern is one of, again, not having any boundaries, where whatever is asked of us, it'll have to be answered immediately. We have to be engaged right there and right then. And it's not always possible. You're engaged in all sorts of things, right? You're always engaged in all sorts of things. And after a while, there's these patterns that come out, and that's what I have been speaking about with my husband, is that you you start reacting to the patterns instead of to the needs of the situation, either your own needs or the needs out there, right? And things just go back to default, to the habitual, normal mode of, I am not able to cope with this. I cannot cope with this. I cannot stand this. And then you're like, it's a downhill slope from there. You just haven't got any, no grip. You have no sovereignty. You're not even an agent anymore in your own processes, because so much of the fuel that we need to keep the engine running, to be active and proactive, and to have a good feeling about ourselves, about what we've done for the day, or the week or the year. All of that fuel is being diverted into the systems that we have inherited to some extent or another. So I'm trying to find all these words to say exactly the same thing that everybody else is saying. It's just I am trying to also focus on the moment, right here in this moment. I find that I can speak to somebody or make a video or engage in another activity as long as I am aware that there is a part of me that has been involved in other things, right? As long as I can sort of maintain contact, because then I don't fragment. The pieces don't just react to each other inside of me. It sounds completely schizo, and I think it is, where the pieces feel that there's no acknowledgement, so then there's no agency, right? It's a nightmare. You get completely, everything becomes, you become reduced to this tiny little helpless, inferior type of half a person. Where is your energy? Where is your attention? What have you been doing? Where are the patterns? You are not only the person sitting here at this moment. We are also the past. It's like the comet, the head of the comet, and the tail is miles and miles long. I'm pointing out there now, this is where out there. All this is the past. Even the recent past, if I have been involved with a piece of completion work, which is what I was doing, that's my the way it works for me to find these things out, is I can see that there is quite a large chunk of my current energy that I have in this physical incarnation right now that has been intensely involved in the past 24 hours with a piece of completion work that has everything to do with abandonment. That's quite a big vibration. It's not that I haven't faced the issue before. It's not that I haven't really, but I think that's also a thing with completion work, is that it tends to be a new level each time. So if I realize that it's not exactly the same sense of communication that I get from deep inside, where it says none of them ever paid any attention to me. Okay? that's something that I've never really felt that way before. And that's important because it's right next to the bit where I was, like, say, last month or a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even 2 months ago or something. But it's not longer than that because I keep coming back to this. There is a hand that drags me down to to where it is that something is hurting me still. This is hurting me, and I if I am involved in this completion process thing, that means that if it's hurting me, I just have to go to it and sit with it, okay? And acknowledge, yes, you're right, there was nobody ever who really paid attention to you. Because it's just the truth. It's the way everybody was involved with there. And of course, I am jealous as a consequence, and that's a reaction again of what I perceive their lives to be like. Their lives, my, cousins, relatives, people who didn't seemed to not have a care in the world in those days. Not nowadays so much, and I'm very much doubting that they really didn't have a care in the world, because everybody has, to an extent, they share the same heritage that I do, and their grandparents are my grandparents, right? So some of that stuff is with them still also, but they're dealing with it in their own way. And they've always had, and that's what I'm jealous of, a safe home and rules and boundaries and everything very clearly set out for them and planned. And some people conform to those rules really well, or they don't feel it as a sacrifice, and others have to be reminded often to commit the self-sacrifice needed in order to be safe. I never had a choice. To me, life was always about survival, just, getting along from one day to the next. And I was listening to people talking about abusive relationships on YouTube. Yeah, very cheerful. And the way they describe that, I am just reminded of my relationship with my mother. And growing up with her, an invalid in a foreign country, day after day, year after year, just going to school, doing a little bit of housework and talking to her and doing the shopping and all that. I didn't have to wash her or anything. She could do that herself. But I grew up with somebody, a single person that I depended on for every form of sustenance, physical and otherwise, who was a sociopath to some extent, just like my father. And she just, couldn't deal with having relationships with people at all. She couldn't be part of any group or anything. She was very uncomfortable always. So I copied all of that, okay? Because when you're 12, like I've said before, you copy that type of stuff. That's the normal way. And that's how I grew up. So I met my husband when I was 21, and he had grown up in slightly more normal circumstances with groups of people who were, who were they were there from one year to the next. And that's different for me. Nobody was ever there for long enough, except, my grandfather who came out, my mother's father, who came out now and again to wherever it was that we lived at the moment. So, more and more as the years go by, and I try to put all this into words for the tube and for you people I don't know why you watch this. I really don't. I mean, thank you. And I suppose at some point it'll serve somebody's, somebody in the world can relate to what it is that I'm saying, and they will maybe benefit from this. All this rambly stuff, it's getting more and more rambly, and I'm sort of falling apart at the edges as I speak. More and more the weeks go by, and less of it is purposeful and upbeat and clear-headed and all that. What I so much want to be. No, it's been a hard couple of weeks, and I just have to find a balance some way or another. And I find that to do that, I have to pay attention to what it is that, where have I been really? What have I been up to? And how much of me was involved in that part or in that part? Even watching a television show about, Sherlock Holmes or something. I can, because fragmentation is also a habit. If you've done it before, it becomes easier. It is so easy and it doesn't hurt at all, which is a very bad thing to be saying, I think. To just, plop off a part of your being, of your personhood, and send it out there to, whatever it is that you think would be interesting or attractive or whatever it is. I do that all the time. This shell oracle, okay, I managed to find myself a little old bag that I like to stick them in, all 200 of them. And I have actually found a way to work with them. This one says religious or specific spiritual values. This one right there. That's nice, right? So, yeah. The Mary L card I had just now, where is it gone? At the bottom was the Magician. Nope. I must have stuck it in somewhere. The Magician. Okay, so this one and the Magician. I found a way how to work this. I don't really think I will be using it for spreads that much. Certainly not by itself, unless I have something I want to map. And that's what I did last night. Michelle, the writer, advises you to look at the cards, basically, to really just look at the photographs of the shells and pick those ones out that attract you for some reason or other, or that you think are, that you resonate with. And I normally, when I use my Marielle or any other type of card deck, I will kind of tend to feel without looking at the images at all, and I will pick one out that sort of it's warmer than the others or something like that. That's how I tend to always work with all the other decks. But with the Ocean Oracle, that doesn't work so much. So I had a bit of a contact with it, a bit of a tiny sense of, I can sort of feel a difference between the cards individually, because of course there's the same type of difference between these cards and between these cards, right? So that's just how that works. But instead, I looked at them and picked out about 35 cards in total of the 200 that really sort of stood out to me. And not because I know the type of shell, or because I have had the type of shell before, or because I bought that shell in a shop in whatever. Not in here. Just deeply inside, I kind of felt like this is a shell that matters to me. This is the shape right there, or that color, or something visceral, type. So not like I picked this one out of the bag just zoof like that. Instead I was really looking at them one by one. So that takes a lot more time. Like finding a soul card process, a bit like that. So those 35, I was afterwards looking at the meanings written on the back of each card. And it turns out that there were what I felt to be 3 different groups, which was actually kind of interesting, kind of enlightening, because the 3 groups were, you could say, a bottom layer of darkness, a part of me that responds to feeling alone, feeling abandoned, feeling inferior, fear, struggle, and those type of things, Then there's a second layer, to me, at the moment, that's how I see it, of strategies. how I tend to deal with things, how I tend to cope, how I tend to look at things so that I can manage, feel better, or also try and understand things, especially the mental attitudes. And then on top of that, there's the third layer of what I would call the hopeful tendencies that actually just sort of drop out of the sky or out of almost out of a dream world in some way. The ideas, the feelings, the responses that are completely positive, almost angelic in nature, like a white feather radiantly just dropping down onto your table, just like that. And there's no connection to the other two layers, really. You just have to, normally you're either in here or in here, sort of strategizing, trying to talk your way out of whatever it is, That's me. Trying to use whatever tools I have, because I am surviving, right? I am not completely open to the blessing of the world above us at all. I am just all trying to do all this by myself, really. So that's the story of my life, trying to do it all by myself. So actually, I found that rather interesting to have those 3 layers mapped out like that. And what really reassured me, because of course I need reassurance as much as I can get it, is that the number of cards for 3 layers was more or less equal. I think the middle one, the rationalizing and strategizing one, had 10 cards, and the other ones had 12 or 13 cards. So it wasn't like everything is in my rational basket, right? Or everything is in my despairing basket, or everything is in the spiritual receptive basket either. There's 3 baskets, and each of them is half full. So, which I think is kind of reassuring, because it means that there's some type of balance there. I am moving forward slowly, and I am facing up to certain challenges, things that I thought were completely insurmountable for most of my life. So making these videos is actually very much an expression of that. And I tend to forget it. I myself forget how important it is for me to be saying these things, to show the more chaos I show, the more I can, I haven't done my hair, or the more I'm much of a mess, and I have no sense of balance, and my attention is all over the place. And yes, I can go and sit and meditate, and that will help me, and I will do it. But there is also a but where it comes to meditation. I think there's a great big drawback, because it's so easy to just go to the meditative state, clear everything out, make yourself feel harmonious and perpendicular to the earth's surface. Again, everything, all the chakras are where they're supposed to be. Yes, it's possible to influence all those things, to influence the energetic state of things in you, if you train, if you work at it. However, the way I feel, the what it means to be me, okay? What it means to be human is to have all that history, to have that comet's tail of all those events. And not only that, I'm linked to all those people also. So I need to do completion work as well as all the other things. I need to, and everything has to sort of shift around every time I go deep into a sense of, what the past used to be like and what it really felt like. I have to, it's like walking very slowly down a staircase with a heavy bag on your shoulders. You go slowly, and sometimes you just have to, stand there and readjust the whole thing before you can go onwards. before you can proceed. So all this is really, it really is linked to each other. And I cannot do one thing or the other. I will meditate once the inner job and the hard work is done. Yes, then I can meditate. Then I can seek the light, find the peace, ground myself. So maybe we will be doing a couple of videos about meditation really soon, because I have promised it 3 times already. But there is a lot that can be done to realign the energies and to make it feel so much better once I do that. However, if there's no real inner balance because I am still involved, engaged, right, in that emotion that needs to find a place in my life, all I really need to do is accept my life, accept the way things have been. It's a challenge. So there you go. And I will watch this back, and I think I will post it anywho, because it's going to be a terrific ramble. But maybe you, as I always say, maybe you will find this useful. Thank you very much for watching, guys.